Hello everyone, I'm Indu Kannen, your emotional well-being coach, and welcome to Manasvi Healing YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about something that we all fall under this trap quite often. And this is nothing but about the comparison trap. And we are going to explore about what is the brain reward and how we can overcome that. Okay, so you might have experienced yourself, or you would have seen someone caught like they are scrolling through Instagram or any other social media and seeing someone's perfect life. Like that could be their body, career, relationship, could be their lifestyle, and you suddenly feel a tug and you're saying, oh, I'm behind. I'm not that good enough. Why isn't my life like that? Yeah, and then you might feel flat, bit disappointed, little cranky, and suddenly you find yourself comparing with others. Yeah. And what if I told you that comparison isn't about a mental habit? There's actually a neural system in your brain driving it. So if we can understand that, probably we needn't fall into that trap. Yeah. So today we are going to understand what is this brain reward system and how it fuels the comparison cycle, especially for women on their healing, growth, and the transformational journey. So what is this brain's reward system? In simple terms, it's a network of brain region that helps you feel pleasure, motivates action, and reinforces behavior so you repeat them. Okay, so it influences everything from food craving to social validation to habits you don't even realize you have. So the reward system is constantly asking, what do I want? And did I get that? Now, when you get something rewarding, say for instance, when you post in your social media and you get some hearts and good comments and some sort of recognition and validation, your brain gives you a dopamine hit, yeah? And you feel good and you are more likely to seek it again. And that's why you would have posted a picture and people would have commented that you're looking good and some positive comments. And you might start posting the same kind of post again in your socials to just get that recognition and reward. Now, what happens in the comparison is you see someone else's success. Now that could be, as I mentioned, in their career, their relationship, their lifestyle. Your brain says, oh, that's really rewarding, right? Because that's what you would want to have in your life as well. Now, immediately, your brain asks, you feel, or you're asking yourself, am I living that lifestyle? Am I having that kind of body or a career where it's so rewarding? And probably you might say no. And that's where it's a prediction error. Now, what you expect versus what you got. Yeah. So now this feeling is very unsatisfying. Yeah. And you're driven to chase the reward again. So what happens is for many women, especially in midlife, this means we compare and feel less than something or someone. And our brain is wired to keep chasing that good feeling. And that's what is happening. Yeah. So in short, comparison is nothing but an anticipation of reward. With the evaluation, there is a gap there and you have an emotional response to it. That is what the comparison is all about. Now, when the reward system keeps telling you you're missing out, what happens? Your brain says, oh, that's not what you've got. You feel insecure. Yeah, and you feel anxious, then frustrated. All these emotional aspects are then associated with that. And probably if you're chasing up for some sort of good looking body, then you jump into diets, you go into programs, or you then probably start scrolling more and more of the social media content and seeking that hit of achievement or validation where you can feel good about something as well. So your nervous system goes into seeking mode rather than being mode. Yeah. And when you are always chasing, you're rarely resting because your brain is constantly chasing something. And that means your body, your emotions, your nervous system stay in low level, and it's in a stress state. Like you're not in high vibration, you're in low level vibration. So over time, this affects your energy, your mood, and even your metabolism because your body thinks it's still striving, it's surviving instead of thriving. So you feeling not good enough there, it just makes you feel stress. So for women over 40, we've got a lot done in terms of your career, family, caring, giving. So it is naturally we are inclined towards giving. So it's more outward than inward. So when we feel still less than something, your internal reward system gets even more activated. Also the hormonal changes, change in the self identity, who am I, and shifting roles, especially when your kids become grown up adults. You feel like, oh, the need for you to become as a complete mother, or thus there is some sort of shifting roles in within your family setup. So all these things makes the comparison trap even more stronger because you are feeling there is some sort of loss in whatever whichever way you've been conducting yourself. Now, in Manasvi healing, we don't just look at what you compare, we look at why you compare and how your brain is wired for this kind of reward. Which is why in Manasvi healing, in the 5 hour method, the fourth hour rewire, we talk about internal validation and emotional freedom more than external validation. So, that is very important. So, what are all the practical steps we can do to break this comparison trap? The first thing is to give an internal validation or internal reward more than an external one. Because for so long we have been, we even in the home setup, like when you cook your food, like you expect your partner to say the food is good today, or your children to say yes mom, this food is delicious. We are looking forward for that external validation. So rather you tell yourself, I've prepared this dish with a lot of love. Yeah. And that itself is very satisfying for us, right? And so when you say that, then it just calms you and then puts you in your neutral space rather than seeking that validation from others externally. Then the second thing what we do is we say something called reframe and retrain the brain's reward anticipation. What do I mean by that is, now when you catch yourself comparing with something or someone, pause and say, whatever I'm doing today now is based on how I would want to do myself or perform it. Now, say for instance, at work, you see yourself comparing with your colleague. Probably they finish up certain task in a more fast way than how we perform. And there could be a slight comparison, or there is a comparison being made or told by your other peer or your manager or your team leader. They say, okay, they finish up fast or something like that. And you understand, okay, you started comparing yourself. But when you say to yourself, I'm doing in the best possible way that I have, with the experience and the knowledge that I have got, I'm performing it in a way that I see to that there's no errors coming and whatnot. That then allows you to anchor yourself rather than feeling that, oh, I'm not good enough, or they are doing best. It just gives you the, again, to centralize yourself rather than feeling, oh, I should be doing their way, rather than understanding this is the way that you are able to perform. Yeah, so that is one thing. And then we can reduce the comparison triggers and build your own reward system. What do I mean that by that is, say for instance, if the comparison is mostly on the app, whenever you see the Instagram, that is, you need to reflect. And in Manasvi 5R, the first is to reflect, which is more awareness. So when your awareness is come to a point where Okay, whenever I scroll through the socials, the Instagram or Facebook, or if there are any other apps, whatever it is, that's when I'm feeling triggered. Then limit the time on the usage of those apps, right? And then tell yourself, when I'm going to do this, I'm going to reward myself whatever that you want to reward. So give yourself, like, I'm going to reward myself this and or that, whichever you think that is going to be rewarding for you. And as you continue to do this, you're training your brain that you're rewarding yourself for not getting triggered. That would then become your new norm rather than the other way around. Okay, so now, how Manasvi healing supports you. As I mentioned in the 5 hour method, we need to understand the first thing is reflect and release. So the reflection is understanding where you are actually getting this comparison. And then release is through doing some small practices like either breathing or writing, journaling, emotional clearing, so that your reward system is not hijacked by comparison, external validation, but you're able to understand yourself and anchor yourself. Then the rebalance and rewire, as I mentioned, you need to do some body movement. Whenever there is a comparison, if there is a movement, it changes your not only your physiology or psychology as well. And do some gentle breathing, breath work, breathing exercise, and to just calm your nervous system and regulate it. And rewire, as I mentioned, we need to understand where the story of us keep saying that this is the external validation is what it's rewarding rather than internal validation. So that's where we work under. And then finally, to re-identify or reignite is what is your true identity is as such. What is the identity that you would want to hold going forward? And we will work towards that aspect. So that means when we have more emotional freedom, more clarity with your own true self, and not expecting from any social proof or social validation, when we are able to create our own internal reward system, that's when we can actually break this comparison cycle. Yeah. So for today, next time when you find yourself comparing, pause and ask, is my brain chasing a reward or is my heart seeking belonging? Yeah. Choose one of the 3 steps which I have just mentioned. Pick one, whichever is easiest for you at the moment. Now, that could be reducing the time usage of the app, and notice how you feel afterwards, and keep a journal of how you're feeling about it as well. As much as you are able to come out of that emotional trap and giving yourself the internal reward, there is a shift that definitely happens, right? That's what we are all looking forward for as well. So if this message resonated with you, subscribe to Manasvi Healing, and also share it with someone who might need this. And as I mentioned earlier as well, this is a growing channel. Please subscribe and comment on the video as well as to what resonated for you. What are the other things that you're practicing to break this comparison trap? And yeah, we can take it from there. And until next time, namaste.